Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a topic that quietly shapes, well, almost everything, from the smartphone in your pocket to the very balance of global power.
That's right. We're talking about the high-stakes world of semiconductor competition.
It's a really intricate and dynamic landscape.
Definitely. And our mission today is to cut through some of that noise, maybe extract the most vital insights from the sources you've shared.
Okay.
We'll be focusing specifically on the latest developments in U.S.-China tech policy and the incredibly critical components right at the heart of this. You might call it a technological arms race.
Absolutely. So our deep dive today is all about understanding the recent strategic moves. We're talking U.S. chip export controls, China's ambitious drive for technological self-reliance, and this really crucial piece of hardware, high bandwidth memory, or HBM.
HBM, yeah.
We're going to try and unpack the far-reaching implications of these policies and understand precisely why HBM has become such a vital linchpin, especially for China's AI industry.
We'll guide you through the latest reports and analyses, help you grasp not just what is happening, but crucially, why it matters so profoundly.
Kind of a shortcut.
Exactly. Consider this your shortcut to being genuinely well-informed on an issue that's, well, it's evolving at lightning speed. Let's unpack this.
Okay, so to really understand this high-stakes game, we probably need to start with China's opening moves, their long-game strategy for self-sufficiency. I mean, this push for semiconductor self-sufficiency isn't just a recent reaction, is it? Feels more fundamental.
You're absolutely right. No, it's a deeply rooted strategic goal. Goes back well over a decade. Beijing recognized just how critical semiconductors were very early on.
Right.
They launched their first national investment fund specifically for this industry way back in 2014. Poured in roughly, what was it, $21 billion? That was a clear signal of intent, even then.
And that initial investment, it's only snowballed since then, accelerated significantly in recent years. What's driving this urgency now, you think, compared to a decade ago?
Well, it's multifaceted. Geopolitical tensions have certainly intensified their resolve, no doubt. But fundamentally, it's about controlling their own destiny, their technological future.
Makes sense.
Just this May, they announced a third state fund. And this one is truly staggering, US $47.5 billion. Their ambition for science and technology self-reliance and control over their entire supply chains. It isn't just talk.
No.
It's explicitly woven into their 5-year plans, every party Congress report. It's core national security, core economic strategy.
So how has Beijing actually reacted on the ground to the U.S. restrictions we'll be discussing?
Yeah.
Has it forced them to slow down or maybe double down?
Double down, definitely.
Yeah.
Rather than retreating, they've responded by pouring even more money and political capital into their domestic industry. It's a concerted national effort.
Really pushing it.
Yes, pushing state-owned companies, local governments, relentlessly boosting production across the board.
And where's all that capital going? Is it all just chasing the absolute bleeding edge, the most advanced chips? Or is it maybe more pragmatic?
It's a fascinating mix, actually. While there's certainly investment in advanced tech, a significant portion is dedicated to shoring up production of what they call legacy chips, or mature node chips.
Okay, legacy chips.
Right. These aren't the tiny, cutting-edge processors you find in the latest iPhones, but they are absolutely essential. Think about chips for cars, smart appliances, industrial robots, tons of consumer electronics.
Workhorses.
Exactly. Billions of these simpler yet foundational chips are needed globally. And to give you a sense of scale, they have something like 18 new factories planned just for 2024.
18 in 1 year.
18. And the vast majority are geared towards these mature nodes.
That's staggering. What does that kind of aggressive build-out tell us about their commitment? And are they actually hitting those targets? Is it working?
It tells us they are deadly serious about achieving, well, at least a baseline level of semiconductor self-sufficiency. And surprisingly, in some segments, yeah, it's already yielding significant results. SMIC, which is their top chip manufacturer, their top foundry, they've reportedly tripled revenue, doubled production capacity.
Wow.
By some measures, SMIC might even be the world's third largest foundry now. They've also, essentially from scratch, built a memory chip industry with companies like YMTC and developed some quite capable chip designers in-house, too.
So this isn't just throwing money at the wall. It sounds like a very sophisticated, multi-pronged approach. Can you maybe unpack the key pillars of that strategy for us?
Absolutely. There are really three main pillars, as I see it. First, they cleverly leverage their huge domestic market. Industries like electric vehicles, batteries, solar panels, robotics.
Uh-huh.
They all need vast quantities of chips, but often not the absolute latest generation. So
Yeah.
this captive demand provides a really robust foundation for their domestic chip maker.
Okay, leverage the home market.
Second, despite the setbacks, they relentlessly pursue advanced technology. Even if they're behind on paper, companies like Huawei are proving incredibly ingenious.
Finding workarounds.
Finding clever ways to optimize existing tools push them further. To produce more advanced chips, including, astonishingly, even 5-nanometer ones.
5 nanometers. That's really advanced territory.
It really is. Achieving that places them firmly among the global leaders, despite the restrictions. It's a testament to some significant breakthroughs. And third, they actively look for openings, loopholes, you might say, particularly in memory technology, which is a key area of vulnerability for them.
That makes perfect sense. But, every chess move has a counter move. And the U.S. has responded with its own strategic play. What's fundamentally driving these increasingly stringent U.S. restrictions?
The core driver is national security, plain and simple. The U.S. aims to strategically limit China's access to the most advanced technology,
Right.
specifically to prevent them from rapidly building up both civilian and military power, especially in critical areas like, advanced AI and high-performance computing.
And this connects directly to China's concept of military-civil fusion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We hear that term a lot. But what does it actually mean in practice for this policy?
Yes, that's a key concern, a central tenet of Beijing's strategy, really. Essentially, military-civil fusion is a doctrine to intentionally blur the lines
Blur the lines.
between civilian tech innovation and military applications. It ensures that advancements in areas like AI, quantum computing, biotech, they directly contribute to strengthening their defense capabilities. So, from the U.S. perspective.
A chip for civilian AI could easily end up in a military system.
Exactly. A high-performance chip used for, say, commercial AI development could easily be repurposed for military AI. That's the worry.
Okay, that brings us to the U.S.'s stated goal, this small yard, high fence approach. What does that specifically mean? What's in the yard?
It's about precision, being targeted. The U.S. aims to identify just a few truly critical technologies. The specific choke points where U.S. firms or maybe their key allies still hold a significant lead.
Like what?
Things like certain design software, the highly specialized manufacturing tools. The fence is then built very strictly, very high, around just those things.
So we're talking.
We're talking advanced lithography tools.
Yeah.
Those are the machines essential for printing tiny circuits on silicon wafers. And this specific high-performance chip's needed for large-scale AI training, and crucially, high-bandwidth memory, HBM, which we need to talk more about.
Right, HBM keeps coming up. But before that, these restrictions, they aren't just a U.S.-China thing, are they?
Right.
What are the broader implications globally for the whole semiconductor ecosystem?
Oh, they send significant ripples everywhere. Huge ripples. Big U.S. equipment suppliers like Lam Research, Applied Materials, ASM International, they obviously lose substantial sales in China.
Yeah.
But it's much wider than that. Global memory giants, think Samsung and SK Hynix in South Korea, they get caught right in the middle.
How so?
Well, these policies force suppliers everywhere, South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, even Europe, to fundamentally rethink their global operations, just to stay compliant with U.S. rules. It's
Right.
complex.
So everyone has to adjust.
Everyone, even Europe, sees effects. Potentially higher costs, maybe supply delays for certain chips because supply chains have to be rerouted or they need to find alternative sources, which might be less efficient.
It really highlights how deeply tangled up the global economy is, where one policy aimed at national security can create this unexpected volatility.
Yeah.
And that might ripple out and affect the price or, the availability of the next phone or car you buy.
Precisely. It's all connected.
Okay, you mentioned high bandwidth memory, HBM, as one of those critical technologies, targeted by U.S. restrictions. For our listeners, what exactly is HBM, and why has it become so indispensable, particularly for China's AI ambitions?
Right, HBM. It's really a game changer in memrotech. Think of traditional memory like a sprawling single-story ranch. Data has to travel relatively long distances.
Okay.
HBM is like building vertically. You stack multiple layers of memory chips directly on top of or very close to the main processor. This creates incredibly short pathways for data.
So much faster.
Astronomically faster. It allows data delivery to processors at rates vastly higher than conventional memory. And this is absolutely essential for training these large, complex AI models. They are just voracious data
They
hogs.
need feeding constantly.
Exactly. Without this incredibly fast data delivery, even the most powerful AI processors hit a bottleneck. The computation slows down significantly, and Chinese tech leaders themselves openly admit this. Raw compute power, specifically feeding the processor's data fast enough, is a major bottleneck for their AI goals.
That definitely explains why we hear reports about companies like ByteDance, Alibaba, Tencent. They're scrambling to get as many H20 units as they can. Those are the NVIDIA AI chips, right? The ones engineered to comply with U.S. export controls.
Yes, that's right. Less powerful than the top tier ones, but still highly sought after. Some reports even suggest they're acquiring them through, gray or black markets before official licenses are sorted.
Wow. So HBM is a critical component within these powerful AI chips.
Precisely. HBM is the specific architectural linchpin. It's what allows AI accelerators like NVIDIA's chips to achieve their staggering performance. Without deep expertise in both HBM design and, crucially, the advanced packaging needed to integrate it.
Packaging.
Yes, putting it all together physically. Without that, China's AI ambitions will always hit a fundamental physics-bound ceiling, regardless of progress in other chip areas.
Okay, given its importance, where does China historically stand with HBM? Are they catching up, or is this still a major deficit for them?
Historically, they're not major players, not at all. They significantly lag behind, and that's primarily due to past underinvestment in this specific, highly specialized area.
How far behind are we talking?
Well, their main memory maker, CXMT, is estimated to be perhaps 6 to 8 years behind the leaders, maybe 3 generations or so.
Behind companies like Samsung or SK Hynix?
Exactly. CXMT is still working on getting HBM2 production up to scale, reportedly, whereas the leaders are well into HBM3 and exploring what's next.
But knowing China's push for self-sufficiency, are they just throwing in the towel on HBM, given the gap in the restrictions? Or are they still pushing?
Oh, no, not at all. Just like with other critical areas, Huawei in particular is actively investing immense resources, trying to boost domestic HBM development and those advanced packaging capabilities we
So
mentioned.
they're tackling both.
Yes. And foundries like XMC are reportedly ramping up their efforts too, trying to close that significant gap. It's a major focus.
And putting all those advanced pieces together, the processor, the stacked HBM, that requires another key player, another highly specialized technique, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The actual physical integration of these stacked HBM modules with the processor die relies on an incredibly advanced packaging technique. It's called CoWoS, chip on wafer on substrate.
CoWoS, yeah.
It's a specialized process, very intricate, connecting all these different chip components together reliably. And here's the critical part. TSMC in Taiwan.
Ah, TSMC.
They virtually dominate this space. They control something like 90% of that CoWoS capacity globally. 90%.
So HBM really does crystallize the core strategic challenge, doesn't it? It shows exactly where the critical bottlenecks are, who holds the keys to essential processes like CoWoS, and why making meaningful domestic progress in some areas is just incredibly difficult, even with massive investment.
Precisely. It's a perfect microcosm of the broader semiconductor competition. You've got incredibly complex technology, highly concentrated supply chains, enormous strategic importance. It really demonstrates these multi-layered dependencies within the global tech ecosystem.
Right. But despite these immense challenges, these supply chain choke points, Huawei, as you mentioned, continues to develop alternatives. There are Zen chips, software platforms like KNN and Mindspore. How do these domestic alternatives actually compare to, say, NVIDIA's dominant offerings, like CDA?
Well, they certainly exist, and they're steadily improving, let's be clear on that. However, they are fundamentally newer platforms, less mature, still grappling with more bugs, more inefficiencies compared to NVIDIA's ecosystem.
And the ecosystem is key, isn't it?
It's absolutely crucial. They lack the massive, decades-long user base that provides constant feedback, optimization, libraries, tools, everything that makes NVIDIA's CUD so entrenched. Building that kind of developer community and comprehensive software stack just takes immense time and resources. It doesn't happen overnight.
However, you also mentioned Huawei is making serious progress in building complete AI systems, not just the chips themselves. What's the significance of that distinction? Why does that matter?
That's a really important point, yeah. It shows a more holistic approach. moving beyond just the silicon. Their Cloud Matrix 384 system, for example.
Yeah.
It's a large-scale AI computing cluster.
Using their own chips.
Exactly. It uses hundreds of their Ascend 91010C chips, integrated with advanced optical networking. What's fascinating here is that initial reports, and we should treat them as initial, suggest this system can actually outperform NVIDIA's latest GB200 system on some key metrics.
Perform NVIDIA. Really? On what?
Things like raw compute power, memory bandwidth, and network integration. Now, it might be more expensive, almost certainly more power-hungry right now.
Sure. But it undeniably demonstrates a significant capability. Designing and integrating large-scale AI infrastructure using predominantly domestic components. That's a big step.
That kind of progress, even with the caveats, leads us to this fascinating concept analysts are discussing, the crossover point. What exactly does that mean in the context of this US-China tech competition?
The crossover point. It's a theoretical but increasingly plausible scenario. The idea is this. Chinese domestic chips, like Huawei's Ascend, will continue to improve, maybe at a significant pace.
Right.
While at the same time, the U.S. chips allowed into China might become progressively less powerful due to ongoing export controls, potential future restrictions.
Because the gap narrows.
Exactly. The performance gap, which is currently substantial in many areas, could narrow considerably. And for certain tasks, certain applications, it might even disappear entirely. It's the potential moment when the trajectory of their respective capabilities could intersect, or perhaps even reverse.
Are we actually seeing any early signs that this might be starting to happen, or is it still more of a distant hypothetical? There are some very early signs, I'd say. Major Chinese tech companies like DeepSeek, ByteDance, Ant Group, they are reportedly experimenting more seriously with Huawei's chips now.
Really committing resources.
Allocating resources, yes. Optimizing their AI models specifically for these domestic platforms. Huawei's developer community, Ascend, has apparently grown massively in recent years, and perhaps most tellingly, even NVIDIA themselves.
They've acknowledged it.
Yes, they've acknowledged losing market share in China.
I remember their CEO mentioned their share in China dropping significantly, from maybe 95% down closer to 50%, something like that.
Exactly. Now, some of that market share shift is directly attributable to the restrictions, right? Customers simply can't buy the top-end NVIDIA chips anymore.
Sure, that's it.
But some of it might also be customers genuinely exploring, maybe even preferring, the domestic options for certain uses. The real tipping point for this crossover, though, the thing to watch.
What's that?
It would be if China's largest tech firms fully commit their vast resources, their legions of developers, their software optimization efforts entirely to the domestic platforms like Huawei's.
Going all in?
Going all in. That kind of commitment could create an incredibly powerful positive feedback loop. It could rapidly mature the entire Chinese AI hardware and software stack, making them far more competitive, far faster than many currently imagine.
Okay. Given all this complexity, this strategic chess match unfolding, what are some of the policy recommendations experts are suggesting for the U.S. moving forward? How should they navigate this?
Well, experts are highlighting a few key strategic directions. One is, perhaps unsurprisingly, strengthening cooperation with crucial allies: Japan, South Korea, the Netherlands.
The key players in the supply chain.
Exactly. This is vital to ensure that export controls are not only coordinated, but truly effective, preventing circumvention, and perhaps even enabling joint R&D efforts to maintain a collective technological lead.
Makes sense. What else?
Another critical area is continued, maybe even accelerated, domestic investment through initiatives like the CHIP GPS. The focus there is on boosting U.S. manufacturing capacity, and particularly those advanced packaging techniques we talked about, like CoWoS.
Bringing more production home, or at least diversifying.
Yes, possibly through robust public-private partnerships. Think about accelerating innovation and ensuring critical production can happen on home soil, or at least among trusted partners. And finally, a big one, diversifying supply chains globally and securing the critical mineral supplies needed for all this chip manufacturing.
Reducing vulnerability.
Reducing vulnerability to single points of failure, whether geographical or geopolitical, though that's a massive long-term undertaking.
So it's just this incredibly dynamic landscape.
Yeah.
Every action creates ripples, economic, technological, deeply geopolitical. It's almost dizzying to keep up with the pace.
It really is constant movement.
We've covered a huge amount today, diving deep into this intricate world of semiconductor competition. From China's ambitious self-sufficiency goals, their relentless pursuit of advanced manufacturing, to the absolutely critical role of high-bandwidth memory, HBM, and the wide-ranging global impact of U.S. export controls.
It truly is a fascinating and, frankly, crucial area. It just underscores how deeply technology is intertwined with national strategy now. We really hope this deep dive has given you some valuable nuggets of knowledge, maybe some insight into how these huge global trends connect back ultimately to your own world, impacting industries and innovation on a grand scale.
Absolutely. We really encourage you, our listeners, to keep exploring these topics, to think about the intricate layers of innovation, policy, and competition that are actively shaping our technological future right before our very eyes.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We look forward to our next exploration with you.